TJ the Wheeldeer coming at you live with another episode of Wheelers. It is the first one of 2025. How are you guys doing? Bill White, Garcia, and Dallas. How are you guys doing?
Doing pretty good. Pretty good so far.
Well, awesome. Everybody have a happy new year. Any resolutions that are noteworthy? Anything worth talking about? Let's start with you, Bill. I feel like everybody makes some resolutions. Some you might want to talk about, some you don't. Are there any that you care to share with us? There's only us and 75 girls. What do you have?
I'd rather not talk about my resolution. We talked about it today. I started doing hot vinyasa yoga, and it's a very humbling experience. A bunch of stay-at-home moms are, just crushing anything that you could do. So it's humbling, but it's great. I sweat a lot and feel like $1 million when I'm done. I just got to get over being embarrassed that you're not very flexible. So,
gotcha.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. What about you, Dallas? Any New Year's resolutions that you care to share with us?
I'm resolute on hopefully getting married this year.
Dude, am I gonna get any wedding cake? Or I know we don't know each other that well, but dude, I'm all about the wedding cake, bro. I just need to show up for that part. That's huge. Yeah, congratulations.
Well, I don't think that's in your diet, so
dude, I'll make an exception. What how long have you guys been together, Dallas? How long have you guys been together?
2 years.
It's time, dude.
2 years.
You by now you know or you don't. So I've seen her photo. So let me tell you this: you should know.
That's awesome. When did you propose?
He's on a delay.
No, I haven't proposed yet. Oh, if I already proposed, we would have been married already.
So it's going to be a quick engagement, huh?
Got it. That's cool.
Wow. What about you, Garcia? Any New Year's resolutions besides getting your butt back to California?
Yeah, besides that, rolling covered calls earlier. That would probably be the resolution for this year. Taking action on covered calls and kind of not assuming that the stock is going to take a breather just because I think it's getting a little stretched. Like I thought Palantir was getting stretched at 40, 45, and I thought, okay, it's going to take a breather at 45 for a couple of weeks, a couple of months, and it just kept going and going and going. So the longer I waited, the more expensive it got to manage. So I think this year that'll be my main goal, is to kind of take action earlier as soon as either side of the leg gets breached, just leave a little money on the table if I have to, but just better safe than sorry there.
Absolutely. Well, sticking on that theme, I've already shared my personal resolutions with the channel. Sticking on the wheeling theme, any wrinkles? One wrinkle that I have is cutting my losses early on covered calls that are going against me. Because fighting them via the roll is just not the optimum play. If the writing is on the walls, just take the small L, let the stock run, and then you can just sell the covered calls down the road later. That way you're not scrambling, trying to go buy leaps that are going to get even more expensive. Or if you want to fight them, but go ahead, and if you don't already have your leaps on, put your leaps on. Like, in other words, I'm going to roll and I'm going to use those premiums to finance leaps. Because if these covered calls are going to continue to cause me pain, two things cannot be true. Those leaps would not be losing me money. If the covered calls are causing me pain, the leaps are going to be causing me pleasure. So I'm going to put myself in more situations where heads I win, tails you lose. That is the kind of situation that I want to put myself in. So I want to set myself up in more situations the way I have with Sofi. It's like SoFi, I wake up tomorrow and SoFi's at $25. People are like, oh my God, what are you going to do with those cover calls at 15 or 20? Absolutely nothing. Have you seen all the leaps? You know what I mean? I'm rejoicing. I'm rejoicing is what I'm going to do, because that insurance that I bought is going to pay. So I'm working on being on both sides of that insurance transaction.
Are you saying initiate them at the time that you're purchasing? Because I know you like to purchase stocks as they're dropping. So that's probably a good time to get into leaps at that point. So you're, from the beginning, what you're saying?
Yeah, I think that it is more cost effective to own leaps as opposed to shares, right? It's more capital efficient because the cover call premium is the exact same whether you own the shares or you don't. Like, we can all agree on that in math. Yes or no? Raise your hand if you agree on that.
Yeah.
If you own a long call or if you own shares, the shares is 100 delta. Everybody knows that. Your leap could be a 20 delta or it could be a 99 delta, right? But the cover call premium is the exact same. So if it is a non-dividend paying stock, the math says you probably shouldn't be in a hurry to own those damn shares anyway. So if you feel like this thing is going up and to the right, it might be more capital efficient to initiate the position via leaps and then start collecting some premiums with cash secured puts. Maybe let the leaps run, because then now the leaps are free to run. You're not capping those gains immediately with the covered calls. So I'm tweaking the wheel strategy a little bit. This is like wheel strategy 2.0 and 3.0 that I'm giving you guys tonight. So now I'm thinking I'm going to buy leaps instead of buy right strategy. It's a buy right strategy, but I'm buying leaps and I'm selling cash secured puts. I'm not buying shares and selling covered calls that immediately caps those gains. And now I'm fighting with the stock. Whereas if I buy the leaps and they print, I'm winning. And if I sell the cash secured puts, I'm winning twice. Heads, I win. Tails, you lose. Those are scenarios that I am trying to engage in. If I buy leaps, I sell cash secured puts. Those cash secured puts go against me because of the implied volatility, Smile. It's a heck of a lot easier because of the laws of gravity to roll down and out than it is up and out for a credit. It's easier to manage a cash secured put gone bad than it is a covered call gone bad. Give me a thumbs up on the chat if you understand that. If you've been in Palantir, give me a thumbs up. If you already know for an absolute fact, it's a lot harder to roll out and up for a credit on a covered call that is absolutely just kicking you in the ass.
Yeah.
But when a cash secured put goes against you because the stock tanks, my goodness, it's a lot easier to roll out for 30, 60, 90 days and take $5 off the strike price and still come out with a credit, and you just got a better deal on the stock if you're still bullish. Now, if you get into a situation like myself where, oh my God, special dividends and MSTX, well, that's on you. You shouldn't have been playing over there anyway. So let's forget about those scenarios. Let's talk about something that you're like legitimately bullish on. You've done your homework, the convictions there, all of those things being equal. We're talking about like if this is SoFi, this is Palantir, PayPal, high conviction stuff, right? Tesla, Meta, that kind of thing. And it dips 20% because there's a correction going on. Well, you should be kind of excited because now you're managing cash secured puts and now you're going to be able to scoop up these shares. And yes, your leaps are getting hammered. But the cool thing is you don't have 100% delta on those leaps. You didn't pay for those shares yet. You know, you're not out the cost of those shares. So it's a lot less painful to be out some money on the leaps because they're not performing yet. And you still have 18 months or 24 months, whatever you have on those contracts. So those are the wrinkles that I'm adding early on. And I'm also fixing the portfolio and looking at, okay, PayPal, I got 10,000 shares of you. Is it really worth tying up 10,000 shares worth at $87, so $870,000? Are you really carrying your weight from a premium perspective? Because my hamburger stand, if you want to be part of them, if you want to be a menu item in my hamburger stand, you need to be able to yield me 25, 30, 40% in annualized premiums. And PayPal is just not able to do that unless I'm doing it at the money. And that's a little bit too reckless for me as well. So I'm not getting adequate premium. And then I have to fight with that covered call with the roll. And it just becomes an absolute pain in the ass. See, I don't mind fighting with a covered call and rolling when I feel like I was adequately compensated. But when I'm not adequately compensated, I feel like it's a double whammy. It's like a double-edged sword, and I'm not going to put myself in those situations anymore. So if it is a non-dividend paying stock, and if it doesn't give me adequate premiums, I'm probably not going to be owning too many shares in those stocks anymore. I'll just own a shitload of leaps instead. And I'll run the poor man cover call campaign on those. It's higher level. It requires more management and all those things. I don't recommend this for other people. So again, the channel's graduating, right? We're going on 4 years on the channel now. So those are the wrinkles that I'm adding in short. What about you, Bill? What are wrinkles that you're adding to your game?
I just wanted to address one little comment because I kind of agree and kind of don't. PG investments on X. Why does everyone think Leap can't lose? You definitely.
I totally think they can lose.
Yeah, you can definitely lose. I think the difference here is that TJ would like to own these shares in the future, and so if you're buying leaps that are in the money, so even if the stock dropped, but it's at a price where you still think you're going to end up owning the shares anyway, then it's pretty beneficial at that point because you're not tying up as much capital. But so I agree with the point, but just depends on how you do it, I guess.
You're bringing premiums through the door, so it's easier to lower your adjusted cost basis because the capital outflow isn't as much. So if the leaps don't perform, you didn't tie up as much cash. The shares don't perform. It kind of sucks because you tied up a lot of cash. And then in my situation, I'm talking about a stock that pays shit for premiums anyway. So I tied up a lot of cash. The premiums are shit. So my only hope is capital appreciation. So if that's my hope, PayPal, I'd rather play it via the leaps. Because I already know that my premiums are going to be shit. I'm in it for capital appreciation, so why don't I just position myself accordingly? And I'm going to go grab premiums where premiums are to be grabbed with the Bitcoin miners and such. Like I'm going to position the portfolio so that every time I ring the cash register in the hamburger stand, I'm getting maximum value out of that transaction.
Hey TJ, I think he's backstage right now.
I don't see anybody right now. Is anybody else?
No, I think Dallas is backstage.
Where are those?
No.
Yeah, I don't see him.
No, it looks like try again, Dallas. I saw his comment on the private chat.
No, I see it. I see it too. Right here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I don't see him here. I mean, I feel like I would see him. I'm going to remove my present. Oh, there he is. He just showed up right now. There you are. It's because you're visiting a Mint, bro. Those fake bricks are giving you a fake connection.
I was trying to get on my cell phone, but it wasn't working, so I'll just have to deal with the lag. There's one.
So TJ, what would you do in a scenario where, let's say, the stock did kind of start dropping? Like, let's say you did buy the leaps and you bought them in the money, but the stock even tanked below the strike of the leaps. Like, how would you manage it towards the end of towards expiration date? Or
you can roll leaps, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like an average down the way that you would on your shares. If the conviction's still there, you still want to tie up money. You got to understand this. Let's just be honest for a second. I owned a lot of shares on Sofi for 2 years and the stock did shit. So by definition, that is dead money. Yes or no? Give me a thumbs up and raise your hand. If you don't understand that, I don't know what you're doing watching right now because I don't know if I can even help you. If you cannot understand that I tied up a lot of money in Sofi via share ownership that did not go up in value for a couple of years, had it not been for cover call premiums that I was willing to sell when the rules said not to sell, it was not worth the money I invested in those shares to own those shares for those periods of time. I would have been better off owning leaps and selling cover calls against those leaps and then rolling those leaps, and those leaps didn't perform. Guess what? The fucking shares didn't perform either. Do you not understand that? Do you not understand that you have $1 million in shares that do not perform, and you're not collecting cover call premium on that? You have $1 million of dead money on there. Raise your hand if you understand that to be true. Give me a thumbs up in the chat if you understand that to be true. These are just mathematical certainties, guys. This is a crazy arithmetic. This is where 1 + 1 = 2. You have $1 million in shares, and you're not collecting cover call premiums, and it is not going up in value. It's a no bueno. So in that scenario, I would much rather be in a situation, even though it's an eroding asset, I would rather be in a situation with leaps, knowing that I'm going to sell covered calls against those leaps, and I could roll it if I still believe in Sofi and this thesis, and I could just add another year and a half to that contract and keep bringing in premiums through the door. So now what I'm saying is I'm going to buy leaps if it's non-dividend paying stock. And again, the stars have to align. I'm not just saying, hey, go pick a stock and buy leaps. Dude, the situation presented itself in SoFi. That's why I'm up $1 million on the leaps. The opportunity presented itself. I thought that the stock was grossly undervalued. I thought that it could go to $25, $30, $40 by June of 2026. So I positioned myself accordingly. But I was like, okay, I know that leaps expire, shares don't expire. So there's that. So let me own both, and then we're going to be able to see what's what at the end of the day. We're going to be able to compare apples to apples, not apples to oranges. So I did that. But again, non-dividend paying stock, the premiums aren't that good. That's the wrinkle that I've added for the new year for myself. So I've been going through the portfolio one by one. And today in PayPal, I bought 75 leaps, and now all 10,000 of the shares, they're on the chopping block. I went through the exercise with Bill. I was like, I need to own these things for a year, though, because, there's about 250,000 gains on the actual shares. So I don't want to have a crazy tax bill unnecessarily. So,
hey, TJ, have you gotten the tax lot on Robinhood yet, where you can select the tax lots that you're going to be selling?
Yes.
That's pretty sweet.
There's only 3,000 of those 10,000 shares of PayPal that have been owned for a year, and I'm trying to sell all 10,000. I can't do it until, what did we say, Bill? It was June, right? I think
something like that. Yeah.
So got to hold on to those bad boys for a while. So I still got some of that dead money there. I can still cover calls against it, but the premiums are not that great. So now I have a crap load of leaps on PayPal. I still have the 10,000 shares, but I'm definitely hoping that it's at like 90, maybe 100 by June. And I want to offload that, turn that into $1 million. I can turn around and use that money and sell cash secure puts somewhere else and make a lot more money than what PayPal is going to give me. And I still participate potentially in all of the upside with the leaps.
So that's a rosy scenario. Let's and not that I think the market's going to go down, but let's just assume it does, and you actually lose some of those gains that you were trying to protect, and have some sort of tax shelter there by waiting the year. What then? Do you kind of ride with both? What would be your plan if it went down?
No, good point, dude. Whenever I did this today on my journal, I said if it dips 5% from where it is today, I'm selling those shares. I have to lock in that win because I know that I will make a lot more money, taxes and all that included. I'll make a lot more money. Give me that $800,000, $900,000 in my hand, and I'll go find situations selling cash secured puts. Because I do think that there might be a pullback here during this transfer of what do you want to call it? Power, however you want to call the presidential thing. I think that could happen, and I just want to build up a real big fat cash position. I still want to maintain the upward exposure with the leaps. I want to maintain less share ownership, more cash, and still collect cover call premiums. And I want to focus on my bread and butter, which is cash secured puts. Like, I feel like the wheel tracker has been telling me for 3 years now that cash secured puts is your bread and butter. This is where 90% of your money has been made. So I'm not fighting it anymore, bro. Like, I'm not TJ the wheel deal anymore. I'm TJ the cash secured put deal. You know what I mean? Like, the wheel tracker says that this is where the money has been made, as well as the leaps. Covered calls, mind you, that money gets washed because when you buy a call on the tracker, it goes against your covered call premium. So that's a little bit I don't know what the accounting word would be. That, you know, Bill, you would maybe know the word for that.
They offset each other.
Yeah, so it's doesn't really tell the tale, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's my thing. So like if I'm initiating a position, maybe I like for Dallas to chime in because he missed this part of it. Because what I'm looking to do now is when I see a position, normally what I would like to do is I buy the shares and I immediately sell a covered call. So I buy the shares and boom, put a cap on the gains potentially. And then I'm fighting with the stock. And then I'm like, oh, I'm going to throw a cash secured put in. If it gets out of hand, I'm going to buy leaps. And then, you know, eventually I'll have my whole wraparound strategy and I feel real good about it. Now, to initiate positions, if it's something that I feel like can legitimately go up substantially from where it is right now, kind of like in phase, that's one that I'm eyeballing right now. Because I feel like 18, 24 months from now, in phase could legitimately be at about $100, maybe more. So that's one that I'm contemplating on, but it also has kind of high IV. I prefer these plays on lower IV, right? Because when it's low IV, I'd rather be paying premium, not receiving premium. So, you know, I'd rather initiate via a long call. And then my right strategy would be to sell the cash secured put. So it feels like a heads I win, tells you lose scenario. If it prints, both of them are doing great. The leaps are printing and the cash secured puts are printing. If it goes down, I'm managing the cash secured puts, which is my bread and butter. It's easier to roll down and out for a profit, you know, for a credit, if you will. I'll manage the cash secured puts. If they get put on me, fantastic. That's my comfort zone as well, eventually to own some shares. So now I've already got the leaps, protection against the upside. I've already got a cash secured put that I manage. Eventually, I'll turn into shares. I'll be able to sell cover calls against those, and I can do that aggressively because I've already got the leaps as protection because I initiated the position with protection, and then I can create the strangle by throwing another cash secured put on top of it, and now I've got this thing going upwards, forwards, back. I've just strangled it, and that is what I want to do from the very beginning versus waiting until things get out of hand and then trying to fix the position. So I want to attack the position as if it's already broken, and then just kind of like manufacture the win from the very beginning, if that makes sense. But it's a directional trade. In other words, I'm bullish on the stock, obviously. Like, why the hell would you be getting in otherwise? Dallas?
Yeah, I think one thing that's really misunderstood about leaps is like you have to run the math as if you were buying the 100 shares. Like if you're actually buying the 100 shares. And I think what a lot of people do, like for example, I bought a leap on Nike today, and it's like, okay, the leap cost me $1,400. The shares would have cost me $7,000. So in a year and a half to 2 years from now, if I had actually, you know, used $7,000 worth of buying power, and it's still kind of near my strike or I'm slightly down, I would have, if I just had the leap, I would lose the 1,400. If I had the 100 shares, I would be down also. But then a lot of other factors come into play. If you were only buying the leap, let's say instead of using the 1,400 to buy the leap, I just bought $1,400 worth of Nike stock. That's a little bit different because you wouldn't be down as much on the 1,400, but you would still have the 1,400. So most people, I think, don't probably want to do the leap, not because they're trying to, like, they feel like it's a good entry point, and they're like, okay, like for me, I'm kind of low on cash right now, so I use leaps right now as like, okay, if I had all the cash that I would want right now, I would buy, you know, this many hundred of shares, but I don't. So I'm using the leaps to say, okay, in 16 or 18 to 24 months, I'll have the cash, then I'll actually, you know, exercise the leap and take ownership of the shares. So it really only makes sense confidence-wise if, as opposed to buying the leap, you're actually going to buy a full 100 shares, then the math is much better. But if you were just going to buy the same amount of money on the leap in shares, the math is not as good because, number one, you can't work down your cost basis by selling calls against it. So that's something to keep in mind as well.
Agreed. And everything that I ever talk about on this channel is always with the understanding that I'm thinking about 100 shares.
Yeah.
Because I don't look at Berkshire Hathaway, right? The big one, because it's just not in my price range. So I don't daydream over there. Like I'm like, okay, cool. I'm a Dillard's kind of guy, a Macy's kind of guy. My wife, Neiman Marcus, and Nordstrom's. You know what I'm saying? The only stuff I have from Nordstrom's and that other store is because she bought it for me. Because I'm not going to go in there and they're not going to take my money. They'll take our money because she did it. So I stay in my lane is what I'm saying. So you always got to, ultimately stay in your lane, what's in your budget. And at the end of the day, guys, we're all running our race, right? We're all running our race. So those are the wrinkles that I'm adding. I like to hear from you guys in the chat. Like, does anybody have any wrinkles in the chat that they're adding? Because guys, I feel like to me, it's the off season, right? Like at the end of the year, it's the off season. Kind of like at the end of the football season, the basketball season, they go into the off season and then they go practice on their own, and then they have OTAs. I think they call them organized team activities, and then they have the training camp, and then they have the preseason games, and then they start the season all over again, right? And the best players in those leagues, it seems like they add wrinkles to their games year after year after year. And then once they put a career together, you look at the Michael Jordans, the Kobe Bryants, et cetera, in NBA, and you're like, man, those are some of the greatest of all time in their respective fields. And that's all that I'm trying to do as an option seller, is constantly try to add wrinkles to my game. Because when I first started the channel, when I first came in YouTube, Dallas can be my witness. I don't know if Garcia was rocking with me that early on. I know that Bill came in slightly later. How many times did I say I'm only going to be the casino, never the gambler? Right? How many times did I say, hey, we're here to sell ops, we're here to collect premium, we're not here to pay premium, right? And all those things. But there's a time and a place to put on that insurance policy as well, right? To buy that insurance policy, not just to be the insurance agency. So I feel like I constantly add wrinkles to my game because there's a lot of facets to this game. And even though I'm just selling cost, collecting premium, that's the base, right? Those are the fundamentals, if you will. But there's a lot to it, from my perspective. So what about you, Bill? Like other wrinkles that you're like really working on? Because I feel like you've been in this game for a while. What do you feel in your game that you need to work on a little bit? Because like I feel like cover calls has always been my nemesis, because I've struggled with I don't want any squatters versus waiting on opportune times to put on the cover call to begin.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely struggle with the covered calls to the point where, if the stock keeps running on me, and I'll just close everything out and just take the win. And maybe that's the right call. I mean, I don't know. I did it recently with a lot of Palantir shares, and it's kind of worked out now that Palantir is coming down. I'm starting to look for new entry points. I think another problem that when I don't have a lot of conviction in a stock, it's hard for me to hold, even though I was right in my analysis, right? So,
yeah,
like, I think this is going up. And then I'll buy shares. I'll buy a leap, do whatever. It goes up. I'm happy with the gain, and I walk away. I think I might need to learn to be a little bit more patient in giving, even though I don't necessarily have a lot of conviction in a certain ticker, just giving it a little bit more time to play out, especially if it's working out for me and the premium. I'm able to collect a lot of premiums, and I've done it over and over and over again with Riot. To be honest with you, I mean, I just don't have a lot of conviction in Bitcoin miners, but I've made a lot of money in Bitcoin miners.
Yeah,
I don't. Maybe I should have more conviction, but I can't. I don't know. So I struggle with that.
What about you, Garcia? Because you have gone from your girlfriend, now your wife's like, hey, yo, if you want to make a life with me, get your shit together, because I don't want to loan you money for your I'm not your payday loan. And now, sniffing two doubles from being a millionaire on paper.
Yeah.
And you rode, for the most part, Palantir was 70% of the reason you got there, I feel, because I follow your journey. I'm a fan and a friend. I'm cheering for you. And, I want you to win, just like I want Dallas and Bill and everybody to win, because there's plenty to go around. That's a beautiful thing, guys. Like, that's a beautiful thing of what we do. We don't have to wish ill will on anybody here.
Yep.
What other business can you find that you're like, hey, dude, I don't need you to have a crappy situation for me to do well? You know what I mean? When we're all in the exact same industry. It's like when I see Dallas posting his gains and, he's like literally one double away from being a millionaire on paper as well. It just warms my heart. I don't log on to see what he's got to say today and hoping he's down $100,000. You know what I'm saying? Like, what does that do for me? But I'm just saying, think about how blessed we are to be in this game, guys. Y'all got to gain a little perspective. Like, this is a situation where you can learn from your fellow man, and you're actually in a situation where you can genuinely cheer for your fellow man because they ain't coming after your job.
Yep.
It's pretty sweet, dude. It's pretty sweet.
Unless they're a dirty short seller, and they're trying to tank our stocks. But
well, you're just gonna take their cocaine money, bro. Alex Barb said it already. I ain't trying to get demonetized.
No, man, but it's been awesome, man. And I mean, one thing that I have really been focusing on is sticking to the core holdings and not getting shiny object syndrome, especially right now, man. There's so many different things that are popping off that are going up like crazy. I mean, even just a week ago, quantum stocks were going up like crazy. It had me second guessing if I should have a tiny allocation to it just in case we were at the beginning of some type of new era. But
that guy hasn't watched enough episodes, because I'm pretty sure, I know I challenge TJ on a regular basis on this
facts right here. My wife and I were just talking about it, dude. I'm seriously thinking about Puerto Rico, bro. This is crazy. It's out of control right now. Like, it is like, pray for me. This is like, I'm like legit, like officially stressed out, like to the tune of 10. Go ahead.
No, man, but yeah, it's but I have been getting better at not chasing after different things and selling my high conviction stocks in order to just chase the next big thing. I kind of really honed into what the next company I'm going to be putting money into. Like, it was Palantir at first, sold a little bit of Palantir to buy Rocket Lab. And now I continue to accumulate Rocket Lab. And now I'm looking at AMD, where I think, okay, the stock has been left for dead. I mean, you look at the past year, it really hasn't performed. It didn't grow as much as NVIDIA did. So the market really punished it, because they said, okay, if you're the Pepsi to NVIDIA's Coca-Cola, like, why are you not growing at the same level as NVIDIA did last year? Like, why are your revenues, why is nothing matching up? So, AMD got punished, and rightfully so. But I think now it's at the point where people have kind of forgotten about it. They're kind of pricing it kind of how PayPal was kind of looked at back in the 50s, in the low 50s and the low 60s, where they said, okay, they're not going to grow anymore. But yeah. I think AMD will kind of be the next company that will, see its day in the sun. So that's kind of where my focus is as well. So Rocket Lab, AMD is kind of where I'm kind of new money that's kind of going into the account. I'm kind of putting into there.
Garcia, I have a position now in AMD as well. And I don't know, TJ, I don't know if you've looked into it at all, but it's kind of at a good point right now where it'd be kind of interesting to start a position.
I can't help myself. I'm going to have to show it. It's from my WhatsApp group. And this is how my dog feels about AMD. So, but go ahead, keep talking. I'm going to find it for you.
Is it the dog taking a turd?
This is how my dog feels about AMD, okay? The dog's taking a big old tasty dump in the yard, and then one of the guys put it on the AMD logo. Because here's the thing. I'm going to take a play out of Paul Gabriel from Everything Money. The house is worth $1 million, and it was priced at $2 million, and then they lower it to 1.5. Seems like a great deal in comparison to $2 million, but it's still overpriced. It's still expensive, is what I'm saying. So what am I telling you? I think AMD is a great deal in comparison to where it was, but make no mistake about it, these are still very expensive stocks, guys. These are still very expensive stocks. And do I think AMD has a freaking kick-ass CEO? Absolutely. Do I think that AMD is a freaking monster? Absolutely. But do I think it's a bargain? No, I don't think it's a bargain. So I'm not that excited about getting in all crazy. The premiums are okay. I've already made money with AMD. Like I did it when it was like in the 70s, and I was kind of excited about it. But I only wrote it up to like 120, so I missed the the parade. So because I thought it was a little too frothy. But again, I get stuck on valuations too much. So I'm like probably the worst person for this.
Are you basing it on current like ratios or future ratios?
Yeah, I mean it's
If
however
you
you want
look
to
at
look
its
at it.
current like price to earnings, it doesn't look good. But if you
Yeah,
look
but I mean, investing is supposed to be you're paying for something today because you think it's going to be worth a lot more tomorrow, but this is your entry fee, right? If you're going to buy into a franchise, you're paying for all the blood, sweat, tears, and equity that went to getting it to that point. So you're paying a premium so that you're qualified for the next dollar that comes through the door that rings the register. Now you're qualified for your percentage of that because you're part owner of that business now as an investor. In our cases, it's 0.00001%, right? But that's the way that I look at investing in my very simple, logical mind. That's why all of these prices are inflated. I always look at the hamburger stand analogy, bro. If you got a hamburger stand on 42nd and Broadway, wouldn't we all love to have that hamburger stand, right? That's Times Square for those of y'all that need to get out the house. So if you're on 42nd and Broadway and you're in the freaking heart of Times Square and you got the best hamburger stand in the world, they would allow you to put it there. They let you put a hot dog stand there at 2:00 in the morning, and that hot dog goes down real hard. I mean, my goodness, dude, you're going to pay a premium for that. So I understand all of those things. You're paying today for what you think the business could be worth tomorrow. But is there such a thing as paying too much for a good thing? Maybe. I don't know. That's why investing's hard, isn't it?
Yeah, and I hear you. I would just say that the analysis that I'm running. So what really changed my mind on it was doing a discounted cash flow model based on what analysts are saying, and where they're projected to be, their future growth and cash flows. And I did a discounted cash flow model on that to get a reasonable price that you would pay today for that future growth. And that's where it kind of changed my mind. And we had the same conversation at Palantir when it was at like $15. And I was
valuing. And I'm glad you talked me into it, Bill. $500,000 later, I owe you about 50 dinners, bro. I appreciate you. Because I cannot get there on the valuation when Palantir was like $15, right? I call him from the Omnium and I'm like, bro, I feel like I'm getting ripped off right now buying this shit at $14, Bill. And I'm gonna go live on YouTube doing this shit, you know? And Bill's like, oh, we're gonna be good. It's gonna feel like a bargain in 10 years, not like in 3 months.
So, yeah, I didn't expect that. But,
dude, nobody did. And all these Palantars, they didn't expect it either. You know what I mean? So Palantir is ahead of its skis right now. We've got the biggest Palantar here. Like nobody expected it. I've been in it from day one, bro. I was probably in it before mid. I got in on the freaking DPO. And it got ahead of its skis one time, and I got out at like 30 something, and this crap went to like 45, I think. And then it came back down. I nibbled at like 1750, and then I nibbled real hard at 1250, and I'm like, dude, what's going on? It went down to like 6 or something like that. And then I was like, oh my God, it started coming back up, and I went heavy at like 8 or 9. I think it was like at 9. I got assigned a lot of shares. I don't know if Mr. Premium of the option is here because I'll roll the tape, and he's like, why are you taking assignment on Palantir over there? This is on my wife's account. And I had a lot more contracts than this account. And I was like, because I think it's going to go up, and I didn't feel like rolling it. You know what I mean? Like, but it was like, dude, it was like $2 below my strike price. I could have easily rolled it. And then luckily I took ownership of those shares because it ended up being a bargain, but it didn't feel so good when I took assignment on those shares. So it's just tough, bro. It's hard buying the dip and it's hard selling the rip. I mean, dude, this game's hard. Give me a thumbs up if y'all have already figured out that this game's hard. It's hard picking bottom. Go ahead.
That's my wrinkle for 2025 is cashing out, man. Not everything, but I'm definitely going to be ringing the register for all my crypto. And then go ahead, Bill.
No. I think I'm delayed. I thought you were done. Go ahead.
Yeah, so ringing the register on all the crypto. Hopefully that's worth $1 million or more, and then I'm going to be just sitting in cash until we get some really good prices. I think probably in 2026. You know, I think Palantir come back down to $50 around there, and load up on companies like that. So it'll be a relatively like boring year for me. I think just kind of sitting, waiting in cash. But you know, having that opportunity to put a lot of money behind, you know, getting into Leaps, or imagine if we had been in Leaps at like, you know, 2 years ago, you know, with Meta in the 80s, you know,
Yeah.
Tesla in the 100s. It's like, yeah, I want to be able to load up on shares primarily, but also get some Leaps in there. But primarily just like sitting in cash and waiting will feel really good, because normally I'm like out of cash, you know, all the time.
Yeah.
I'm always just DCAing, you know, buying the dip, and like AMD. I've been buying AMD. I've been buying Uber. You know, just trying to set some good positions for the long term. But I think I'm going to be much more sniper like. For example, Palantir is like sitting like right on its 50-day moving average today, literally.
Yeah.
It had a nice bounce actually off of its 50-day. And like normally I'll be like, okay, 50-day moving average, that's a good entry point to, you know, DCA. It's down like around 20%. You know, I'll go ahead and just add some shares here. But I think in the next, like I said, I do think we will get a nice substantial, just overall market pullback over the next, you know, 1 to 2 years. So it's like I'm not going to DCA, you know, at $70 when I think it's going to 50 or 60. You know, I'll just put more money behind it if it gets lower. And if we continue to rip and rip and rip, then, you know, whatever. I still have a decent amount of shares of my favorite companies, but I'm not going to be like buying as often, you know. So that's kind of my wrinkle for 2025.
Yeah, TJ, I really like the play that you talked about. I think on X we texted about it as well. Right now for Palantir, is I feel like you're in a win-win situation with the put credit spreads.
Yeah, so that's what I wanted to talk about next. Is I wanted to pivot. How do you deal with a company that you really want to be in, but you just are absolutely convinced that it's overvalued, but you still want to ring the cash register? I feel like the best play that I can come up with is sell some put credit spreads. If the shit goes down, you're excited, you cash out the long put.
If you have the cash.
Yeah, of course. Again, this is instead of tying up, and again, this is because premiums are shit too, right? Palantir is in that category. That's the reason, guys. I don't know if y'all know, I sold everything on Palantir at $79 because of two reasons. One, I screwed the pooch on covered calls. I didn't do what I was supposed to do on leaps because I hadn't learned all the lessons yet. So I feel like if there's one stock that really made TJ the wheel deal, it's SoFi, because I learned all of the aspects of the game, because I got my ass kicked so much along the way with that stock. And then like Meta taught me how important leaps were, because I accumulated like 4,000 shares of Meta in the 90s. And I didn't buy any leaps because, I'm the casino, not the gambler. Knowing damn well that leaps was the right play, and leave those leaps alone because they will print, because this thing should be at least at 200. And then I ended up selling those shares like $213, and then Meta went back down like 190, and I'm on YouTube thinking that I'm like big shit. And then look at where Meta is now, and I left a lot of money on the table. So Meta taught me that lesson that, hey, there's a time and a place for leaps. So that's when I'm like, I'm gonna put leaps back into the arsenal, because I was doing them offline. But I didn't want y'all to see me like not do so good at things, right? Because I'm very transparent on the channel. So I was like, let me do it on the other account, my practice account, if you will, where I get my ass kicked, hone my skills. So now let me come live and in color, so y'all see the person that's already been in the batting cage a little bit, right? So I go there and I introduce you guys to my world of leaps, and now we're up, almost $1 million on the leaps that I bought live on the channel for you guys. But Meta taught me that, and then SoFi taught me that if I'm going to continue to sell aggressive cover calls, I got to have those leaps on as well. And then as long as the premiums are good, I can continue to sell cash secure puts, run my version of the cover strangle, and so on and so forth. And just have it, just have different strategies on as far as like different strike prices and expiration dates and stuff to create diversification within the stock, right? All of that stuff. Like SoFi did that for me, but Palantir, bro, I want to ring the cash register, but I don't necessarily want to own any shares. So Bill and I were talking offline. I think the way to do it is instead of cash secured puts right now is go get 10% of your capital on put credit spreads, and you're actually hoping these things get challenged, because then now you can turn them into bona fide cash secured puts at a strike price that is now legitimately attractive to you. And for me, that would probably be in that $60 range. Really, really attractive for me would be 50. I want to go on record saying I really don't think Palantir will ever see 50 again, or 49, shall I say, 49.99. I think unless there's a split, I just don't think that that's going to happen, because you can be like, what about a black swan event? I mean, I feel like the company thrives during those situations. I guess Garcia would know more than anyone, but I feel like it's built for a black swan event. I think it wants Donald Trump to say things like we're taking over Canada and Gulf of America and all this other crazy shit, and we're gonna like we bought Alaska from Russia, and we're just gonna go ahead and just buy the rest of Russia. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like Palantir is designed for a crazy ass world. So
I have a good conversation starter, because someone said that none of us disagree with you about anything. So I want to ask an open-ended question that I disagree with, that you could add some color to, that I think would be helpful to everyone. Because it sounds like several people are, I mean, the market, we've already had back-to-back 20% years. We are due for some type of pullback. At some point, maybe not this year, maybe next year, whatever. You are a hedge fund manager who doesn't like to hedge.
I don't prefer to, but I do offline. I do.
So, hold on. A couple weeks ago, you said, or I should clarify, you like to hedge, but you like to hedge with in your own style, which is fine. But basically, what you said is, instead of buying puts, you like to sell calls, collect the premium, sell aggressive calls, because then you get paid. But then, if you're wrong and the stock keeps going up, then you basically get to take the same amount of money that you would have bought the puts with and buy back the calls for a loss, basically.
If I'm disciplined to do it. If I'm not, then I'm screwed, and I'm in that situation right now. Yeah.
So I think for some people that may be difficult, because number one, you're locking in a loss, which is mentally really hard, like to buy back the call.
Facts.
And then number two, your gain on your hedge is obviously capped with a covered call. You can only make 100% of the premium. Whereas if you were buying puts or even put debit spreads, which are cheap, I think a lot of people can't afford to buy puts because it doesn't make sense to hedge a $10,000 account. Doesn't make sense. But you can incorporate put debit spreads or like buying calls on like SQQQ, things like that, inverse ETFs. So walk us through your mindset on a large account versus a smaller account when it comes to hedging. Would you do something differently if you had a smaller account as far as hedging, if hedging at all, as opposed to your preferred strategy with selling calls?
Yeah. So obviously the account that you guys see is not the hedge fund. And I 100% buy puts. But I do not buy puts on individual equities because I don't like to cheer against my stocks. But I do buy puts on the Qs and the SPY occasionally. And those have not worked out too well for about 2 years now. But it is just something that you have to have on occasionally because at some point they are going to work, because you cannot just be that directional because it's just irresponsible. How would I hedge a small account? I think you have to. I think you can figure out a way how to finance that cash secured put, or I mean, how to finance that long put. You know, so there's spreads, right? So you have put credit spreads and you have call credit spreads. So you have covered calls and you have cash secured puts. These are all instruments that you collect premium. So I would say, depending on what your bankroll is use the instrument that you collect premium with. Or if you're in a situation like a leap or something like that, or anything that you're winning on, like maybe close out a winning position if you feel like you're absolutely in a situation where you need to buy that insurance, like lock in that win and buy that insurance. So you got to find ways to finance that expenditure, because you don't have the money just sitting there. You know, in a hedge fund, it's easy, or it's easier, because we're in a game of money. So I don't know that a lot of people haven't figured out that money is a very key component of this game. Like I said it in the seminar, I feel like the number one reason wheelers fell is because they're not adequately capitalized. And they're not adequately capitalized financially, and they're not adequately capitalized mentally. Mm-hmm. Like, I think they get hold of money and they're so eager to get into the game. Like, and I used to struggle with that. That was a wrinkle that I added like 4 years ago. And I even struggled a little bit, and Dallas caught me about 2.5 years ago when we had an influx of money when I was doing my wife's account live on YouTube. And we added like a chunk of money. And as soon as that money hit the account, I was like, dude, I got a brand new credit card in college. You know, like I was ready to go shopping. And it's like, I couldn't even wait for the right deal. So it's like, you just got to be patient. You got to pick your spot. But what helps me, dude, is like, and I'll show you on my son's account a little bit, the way that I'm doing that one is what helps me is my conviction, dude. It's like my conviction is disease, right? I have courage, I have conviction, I have capital, I have cash. You know, capital is the cash. And then the way that I'm able to make the big money is I'm waiting on the crash. When the crash meets the cash, and you have the courage and the conviction, you're going to make a lot of money in this game. Yeah. But it's real hard. So I've said a lot right there. And some of y'all need to play that back. I just gave y'all a clip that can make you a millionaire. So I'm going to give it to y'all again for the people that are in the back of the room, because we have a lot of people watching right now. When the crash meets the cash, and you have the courage and the conviction, you can become a millionaire in the stock market. It happened for a lot of people in Fubo recently. And I could have done a lot with that stupid little stock, because I almost pulled the trigger on 50 to 100,000 shares that Friday, because a buddy of mine told me, hey, there's talks of a merger. And I was like, oh, dude, I don't want that shit. 'Cause I go live on the channel, people are going to see this shit. And I recently had Fubo on there, and then the members are like, oh, dude, like, do we really need like this type of irresponsibility and all this other shit? Because, you know, y'all all saw me go through IDEX and all those things on the channel. So I'm trying to have like better quality stocks, but
that could be kind of like poker, where you're kind of focusing on the outcome.
Yeah.
Where just because there was a merger doesn't make Fubo like a smart play to do if you're trying to grow a responsible account.
Well, bro, it's not sustainable. It's just like buying a short call. It's buying a long call, short dated that works out. Yeah. Is that systematic? Who's the Mark with the H? I don't know how to say his last name. The German dude. He is systematic, repeatable, and consistent. So is it systematic? Is it repeatable? Is it consistent? In other words, can you teach somebody else to do what you just did? If the answer is no, then by definition, in my opinion, you got lucky. If I cannot teach you how to do what I just did to get a very similar outcome, then I got lucky. But I can show you how to sell cash secured puts. I show you how to sell covered calls. I can show you how to put on the timely leaps. I can show you how to roll when it makes dollars and cents. So I always tell people that the balance isn't an accident. But you don't see me buying, YOLOing into freaking short dated long calls, bro, because that is we're not betting on black here. Y'all want to have a good time. Y'all have seen me go to Vegas. A couple of y'all have seen me go to Vegas. Yes or no?
Yep.
You were there, Garcia?
Mm-hmm.
What happened when I wanted the roulette table? Didn't I hang you some chips?
Yep.
Because we're gambling and I don't give a shit, right? It's a different mentality. That's not what we do here. That's not what we do here. You have some conviction on these stocks and you're going to try to figure out how to manufacture the win. So anyway, what do you do to hedge? I know there's one that you like. Dallas, do you want to share it with people? Is it like was it an SQ something? I don't know. It was the ticker they used. It was an inverse or something like that.
Can you let me just share my screen real quick.
I haven't seen anything. Hey, do y'all know option sells? What's his name? Christian?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that guy seems cool on Twitter.
Yeah, I met him. At Torrey Pines.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, dude, super cool, dude. Beautiful family, dude. He's got the wife, the kiddos, the whole thing. Well, he had one kid at the time. I think the wife's pregnant again. I'm trying to get him on the channel. He agreed to come on, so we've texted a couple of times back and forth. So hopefully I'll get him on here soon for you guys.
Oh,
I
nice.
think he's a young kid, dude, but he's got a wealth of knowledge already. I'm just like, dude, I'm 49 years old. Like, where's this dude going to be at 49? You know what I mean? Like, this is just, I'm so happy for people like that. And I mean, Dallas is what are you? You're not even 30, right, Dallas?
Yeah.
How old are you, Garcia?
32.
Man. And then like the little Alex, the kid at my channel is like barely turned 21. I mean, and then Amit, what's Amit, like 27?
I think so, around that.
And then the Tanners, Tevises, they're in their 20s. You know, I mean, dude, how rich are these guys going to be, dude, in 10, 15 years? How old are you, Bill? Mid-30s?
Dude, I'm 41.
I'm just saying, don't you wish that we had learned this game at that age? I mean, it's pretty awesome. You know, it's pretty awesome. So anyway, yeah, I saw this right here. So you want? Let me see if I can make. I'm not sure. Can you make it bigger? Or are you on your phone?
I should be able to zoom in. It's not.
Is this your stuff, Dallas? Is this?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is the.
Dallas has a. If y'all follow Dallas, well, I don't know. Was it for how many subscribers, Dallas? You have this.
To 1,000.
He has a. I don't know what you call it. What do you call it? Like a memo? He's got some really good. Huh?
Options blueprint.
Yeah, dude, he's got his things. A lot of good information on this thing, dude. I highly recommend it. I still got to get with Dallas because I want to see if I can include some of this stuff on the book. If I could, as long as I can give him credit for it. He's got like stuff on here that I have not even thought about. I highly recommend it. You just got to become a subscriber, though. That's the caveat.
Yeah, it's free, and then just send me a DM on like Instagram or email me, and I'll send it to you. It's going out to like 100 people now, so I think people. It's basically everything I wish I'd known when I started wheeling.
Right.
And so, probably my favorite way for a small account to hedge is right here to buy calls, or if you're really a small account, call debit spreads on the SQQQ. So that basically means if the Qs, the NASDAQ 100, goes down 1%, that means the SQQQ is going to go up 3%. So it's a triple leverage inverse ETF. So if the NASDAQ pulls back 10%, the SQQQ is going to go up 30%. And then if you had calls on a 30% move, you probably made 2, 3, 4x that. And if you have call debit spreads, they're not even expensive to do. So that would be my non-financial advice recommendation for probably accounts 10,000 or less would be debit spreads on the SQQQ. Or
you want to walk them through the dynamics of a debit spread real quick?
Yeah, I would. I probably would love to do that on Robinhood, and we should do that next time because I actually want to show it, and I know most people use Robinhood, so I'll bring up my Robinhood account and we can go through an example. Maybe if people could put in the chat like which stocks you want me to look at for that example, that way I can have a couple prepared. Whether I'm sure there's a lot of Palantir, a lot of Tesla, a lot of Sofi, and we can look at some different examples maybe next week real quick. That'd be a cool segment.
Yeah, for sure.
Dallas, what percentage of your account do you like to have hedged?
No more than 5%. No more than 5%. But also, like a lot of people would just say, "Hey, I'll just sell calls." I mean, that's fine too. But like where we're at now, like if you had seen Palantir at 80, it's like, okay, well, maybe I can sell calls and then take some of that premium and buy some puts, or put debit spreads. So that way, you're financing your hedge even better, and it's actually a better hedge than just selling the call. But I would say 5% max, because trying to time, like I've done a lot of kind of research into hedging, and it's like it's a really tricky thing. And obviously we tend to be in a trending upward market for a majority of years, and so trying to time it is just really difficult. So statistically, you actually want to start to put hedges on, like when the example was like if your house is on fire, that's kind of like a bad time to like buy house insurance, right? Because your house is already on fire, so you're going to pay expensive premiums to insure a house that's on fire, right? Theoretically. So, but you don't want to just have crazy, unnecessary insurance coverage on your home. So you kind of want to like wait for your house to start smoking, actually, and that's when you want to like put some actual real hedges on, as opposed to just constantly trying to put them on if you feel your stock or the overall market is overvalued. So it's super tricky. I only like doing it if I'm outsized in a position. Like, let's say one particular stock was like the vast majority of your account. It's like that might even prompt me to go more than 5% of the account on a hedge, because one bad move in your stock and like your account could maybe go down 30%.
I'm glad you just said that, but I have a different kind of thought process on this, and this might actually relate to Garcia a lot. So, like Garcia has a lot of Palantir, and obviously Palantir, it just went on a massive run, right? And as long as you stay ahead of your covered calls and you keep rolling them up and out, and let's say you just get a small credit or a small debit, if the stock continues to go against you, you are actually locking in losses on the covered call that you're rolling, right? But it rolls into your new position. So over time, if it keeps running, as long as you can keep bringing the strike price up, keep bringing it up, and not have to pay a lot of money or even collect small credits by doing that, what you've done is just establish, believe it or not, a huge hedge on your position. Because I don't know if Garcia is encountering this now, because I don't know exactly where he was, but as Palantir has come down, because he's rolled in so many losses, it's quite possible that his covered calls that are gaining, maybe not a 1-for-1, he's not like a 1-for-1 delta, but it's covering a lot of the losses that he has on his shares right now. Ironically, like it's actually you can almost create a really big hedge on your portfolio when you're that concentrated and you've been underwater on covered calls.
Yeah, and right now thankfully I'm above. Like I did have to pay a hefty debit a couple months ago. So a couple months ago I got ahead and I even rolled it up to $100 a strike, $100 strikes expiring in a couple of weeks. And I recently rolled them down to 85 that expired last week out of the money. So I'm finally like above the strike right now. So I've been focusing on just selling 0.1 deltas and just staying as far ahead of the stock as I can, even if I'm leaving money on the table. Like,
but did it help you as Palantir went down? Like, did you notice that your portfolio didn't quite move as much as you would have thought?
Oh no, it was absorbing 90% of the down move at that point because they were in the money at that point. They were absorbing a lot of the downside move.
Yeah, that's my point. So that's kind of where I'm almost coming full circle about covered calls. As long as you can be patient with them, they do, oddly enough, if you've stayed ahead of them, they can create a huge hedge on a position that you're highly concentrated in.
Yeah.
Hold on, guys. Let's not get out of context, though, because I am the king of effing up covered calls. So I've learned all the gimmies and the gotchas, I promise you. So it really depends. Let's not take it out of context. It really depends on how far out these covered calls are, because it looks real beautiful on paper. And Dallas knows exactly what I'm talking about. I can see it in his eyes all the way from here to his fake brick wall. If you're sitting on a Palantir covered call at $45 for January of 2026 because you screwed the pooch on selling that covered call, because you got caught with your hand deep into the bag of chips, right? Or the cookie jar. And you're feeling good right now because Palantir is crashing, but you got a 95 delta on your covered call that's helping you. So your portfolio balance looks real good. But let me tell you what you don't have. And I want y'all to look real close. We're going to go right here on Mugly. You're going to have to bear with me. Don't lie to yourself, kid, because you don't have liquidity. You sacrificed that liquidity when you chose to roll out way the hell out there to January 2026. So you're going to have to ride this hype train all the way back down to 20 if that were to happen. So you lose liquidity when you kick this can down the road on cover calls way the hell down there. It's happened to me time and time again. So it feels real good because you're like, oh my God, I'm coming up for water. It's like, have you ever gone swimming a little bit too far down under the water and you start getting paranoid because you're like, shit, it's a lot higher up than I thought it was. But then you're like, okay, I could just like see it. So that's all that's happening for you right now is the deltas are helping you right now. But don't kid yourself because you don't have liquidity. You don't have liquidity. So you'd better off not being in that situation, period. You got to find another way. The best way.
At 45, I would 100% agree with you. But I'm talking more if you were able to roll early and you're closer to where it is. So,
but I think my New Year's resolution on it is we saw the writing on the walls on Palantir. I saw it, dude. The mojo was with this company. The sentiment changed. Give me a thumbs up if you saw it. Dude, we all saw it happening. It happened over the course of like 6 to 8 weeks. Like the earnings call was amazing. The coverage on CNBC was amazing. Everything was just lining up. I don't know. The Titan contract happened. Garcia, you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
There was some signs there that this shit was going to go potentially parabolic. But there's a lot of us, myself included. I'm Captain Covered Call Screw Up right here. And I was like, well, according to the DCF model and all this other shit, it's probably going to hang out over here at $40 because it's ridiculous and all that stuff, right? But dude, valuations don't matter sometimes whenever there's just like euphoria and mass hysteria and people want in. I mean, what did he say? The market can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent. So I think that the big lesson that Palantir taught me, and I'm really hoping that it'll teach a lot of you guys that are still underwater, because I chose to cut bait because I taught something to Garcia a while back, if he remembers, whenever he has the leaps, right? I was like, hey, make sure you're not losing money over here and making money over here and thinking things are cool, right? Remember that little lesson that I gave you? Helps you out a lot now, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
It's just math. It's understanding position deltas. But dude, it's just cut bait with the damn cover call if it goes against you and let the damn thing run and then go sell it later. You can go get that money back later. It's a lot easier than just insisting on having the covered call on because you don't want to book the loss. because when you roll it, you still book the loss. You still book the loss. It's a realized loss, right? You just prolong the inevitable potentially.
Yeah, I'm glad actually Garcia covered that in one of his recent videos. Was like, now Robinhood gives you the like realized P&L, I think, like for the month and for the year, and he had a big realized loss, and that was all from
Don't put
rolling
cookies in
calls.
it.
It's like people still in 2025 don't realize, not that that was a bad move, that was a good move on his part, but it makes your P&L look a little ugly.
Yeah.
Because you're locking in a loss in order to help, set yourself up in a better situation. But even if you take in a credit, you're still locking in a realized loss for an unrealized gain down the road.
Yeah. And I even sold some shares too, to that way to realize some of those gains too, because I told my wife too, like, all these gains, they're still on paper. Like, our account looks great right now, end of the year, but if we sell some shares now that we've held them for longer than a year and we kind of move it somewhere else, we're making those gains real, and now we're actually moving that capital and we're putting it here. We're kind of letting it grow elsewhere while still remaining super long. Like, when I'm still like 40% long on Palantir. But it is kind of wild to say, like, I used to be 100% like all in Palantir, and now I'm down to 40%, but it's still pretty concentrated.
Yeah, I want to share this one right here because maybe this will drive the point home. I have covered calls on a company y'all might have heard of called Tesla. Everybody familiar with Tesla?
No.
No, you're familiar with Tesla? It's just some guy, Elon Musk. He's kind of quirky. He talks funny. Got a bunch of kids with different women. That dude. He sends rockets to outer space, and then he somehow catches boosters or whatever. I don't know. It's like really cool. I'm not really into it, but it's like kind of a cool thing. And they think he's going to live in Mars eventually and have like little Mars babies, Martians, I guess is what you would call them. So anyway, I bought into the company. So we got 4,000 shares. And I have covered calls at 240, at 340 right now for January of 2027. And Tesla probably sitting at about $400 right now. This thing says 394. I don't know how accurate it is right now. But I rolled these covered calls. I don't know, can you guys see that? Is that large enough or no? Let me see if I
can see it.
Okay. Let me just see if I can make it just a little bit just to drive the point home. So these were at 280. These were at 280. And I was like, dude, I don't want to mess with them. And I need a tax harvest. So what can I do? I don't have anything else to sell because, the stock market's up like 20% for the year or whatever it was, right? And this portfolio done pretty well. So I'm going to roll these to $340 for January of 2027. So I want you guys to see there that I had received a credit of $243,560. And mind you, there was already a couple of rolls on top of this. So this isn't even an accurate amount. But then I did legit have to give back $723,000 to get out of those covered calls. So I booked a loss, a paper loss of 479. I immediately sold the covered calls at 340 for January of 2027. And I brought in 737, which is about $14,000 more than I gave back. But now I'm sitting in La La Land for January of 2027.
Can I call a timeout now?
Yeah.
My turn. Okay. So this actually represents what I'm talking about, but it also doesn't, because you're proving how that you're rolling in the losses into your new position, and that will actually create a hedge for you if the shares that you own go down, right?
Of course.
But I was not specifically referring to being that far kind of behind on it. I was Garcia said at the beginning he wants to try to stay ahead of his covered calls, like roll early and often type of thing. That's kind of the situation I was talking about, because you could be accumulating those losses, but you're really not that far underwater. And that's kind of a good situation to be in, because you're at that point already ahead of the stock, and then creating a hedge against your portfolio. I see what you're saying now, and yeah, this is you can see how you're rolling in the losses, but you're so far under that your deltas are all jacked up right now.
Yeah, so Tesla goes down to 340, and it probably will. Why? Because earnings aren't going to be good. That's the reality. We already know why. Because deliveries weren't good. Is energy and all that stuff going to make up for it? I don't know. And then it's probably going to go up because, Donald Trump's going to get sworn in or whatever. So it's probably going to be all over the damn map. But Tesla is going to be probably between like 300 and 500 for all I know. 600 for the next year or two. So this thing is going to be crazy, and I'm just going to have to deal with it. But what was more important to me was lowering the tax bill to Uncle Sam. So I was willing to deal with it, and also the fact that I had booked a $375,000 win on TSLL because I already knew that this was a pain in the ass. So I had loaded up on TSLL, ran the whole coverage triangle on that, and it worked out magnificently. So I was like, well, I'll deal with this shit over here down the road because TSLL paid off, bigly, so to speak, right? Since Donald Trump's going to be the president again. Go ahead, Dallas.
What is your plan with that, TJ?
This guy here, I'm gonna have to roll it till freaking Elon's in Mars. I'm gonna have to roll it until he's in Mars, bro. And I'm not gonna buy any more leaps because I already turned 15 leaps into 1,500 shares recently. Go ahead, Dallas.
I need to see all this in a pie chart, or else it doesn't count.
I actually do have a pie chart. Hold on.
If you know.
Oh, dude, you're on Twitter now. There you go. I was making a pun because I had seen something earlier. So I checked this out for this. And again, this isn't me. This is all Bill White right here. So this is a portfolio allocation right here. So some people show this kind of stuff right here. And it's like, look at me, I'm Mr. Transparency. And I'm like, bro, like couldn't a 12-year-old put something like that together? And like, how does that count as transparency, dude? Like, I mean, I'm just sorry. Like, how does that count as transparency? It's offensive to me because I will lie. So I take personal offense to that. Get your ass on there and stop yapping about the news and make some freaking trades live. And then we can talk about being fully transparent. Because if not, I'm going to call you out because that is my moat. So don't be coming at my bullshit. I'm going to defend my patent here. And my patent is that I'm the only one that is legitimately fully transparent. I don't know as much about Sofi as all these other fuckers, but y'all know how many shares I got. I'm the only one that's transparent about it. You know what I mean? You ain't going to see Vlad on my fucking channel, but you don't know how many shares of Robinhood I got. You know what I mean? That's the reality. So that's transparency. None of this other bullshit. Give me a pie chart and talk about transparency. I take offense to it.
Is that fucking Jesse?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I'm just saying I saw some pie charts and it just, ruffled my feathers a little bit.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I don't like that guy either.
Dude, Jesse is actually pretty cool. I did a podcast with him on and Jesse is not who I'm referring to, by the way. Jesse, I did a podcast with Jesse down what's it? Finance. Help me out, guys. With Carlos.
Yeah.
What's it called? We do on Sundays. Dude, I'm sorry, brain fart. Yeah, Finance Junkies. And he was doing the charting and all that shit. It was cool. I wasn't sure if I was gonna like him, dude. He's actually a really cool dude. On X, is he mean on X or not? Because I don't follow him on X, but I feel like he does block a lot of people, right?
He's very thin. He's very thin-skinned. Like I called him out on Palantir because he showed this chart with the red line.
Thank you.
Taking Palantir down to $35, saying that don't tell me I didn't warn you about Palantir. So I quoted him.
What's wrong with Palantir?
I don't know. He said, I don't know. But point is, he's trying to make a call that Palantir is going to go down. It's going to crash. So, but I remember that last year he sold Palantir back at like $19 or $20. So this guy's been out of the stock. So the guy that sold at 20 is telling you it's going to crash from 80. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. But the thing is, he kind of pats himself on the back a little too hard whenever he says the stock is going to go up or it's going to go down. it goes up or it goes down, he's going to say, hey, I called the guys. Now sign up for my Discord, sign up for my paid subscription service because I am a guru. So he doesn't take kindly to people calling him out on it. But yeah, no, he has the pie charts, and then he has like these graphs showing how much he's up and down, but it's misleading to say the least, because he said he was up 50% last year, but his graph chart shows that he's up like 200%. So he shows people a portfolio balance that went from $1 million to $5 million in a year, but then he's turning around and saying, oh, I'm up only 50% from last year. So
yeah, I don't know how that works. And I think Bill, being a CFO, knows that numbers can probably be altered a little bit if you take certain points in time, perhaps. But what I do know,
he's kind of including deposits and kind of implying that they're returns, but he's saying, oh, this is my portfolio balance over time. But people who are not privy to it and they're just going to sign up because they're just following and they're new to the market, they're kind of assuming, oh, I could 5x my portfolio if I just follow Jesse.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, dude. I don't know Jesse. I mean, I wasn't sure if I was going to like him. He gave me a good vibe, and also, but the other thing is, we just don't. We just don't want to dog anyone like that, though. But I did take offense on this pie chart that I saw in my ex that was claiming transparency, and I was like, dude, how is that transparent? Like, dude, I could have had Jeremiah make me a pie chart for Pete's sake, you know?
Yeah.
But I don't follow Jesse. Maybe I need to follow him, that way I can see what you're talking about.
Well, that's his. I think it's his pinned. It's his pinned tweet. It's a pie chart.
Well, I guess let me. I don't know what pie chart you're talking about.
Real quick, Bill. You said if Palantir crashes to 40. So let's just talk about that for a second. And my goodness, dude, there's 1,800 people that have seen the link on Twitter. 116 rocking with us, and then there's a few on Garcia's as well. I appreciate all of you guys. Y'all could hit the like. Y'all could go to Dallas's. I'm trying to get Dallas to 1,000. And what I like to do is I want to invite myself on Dallas's channel and Garcia's channel. I want to go do something on y'all's channel. That way y'all can go interview me over there, and I can give y'all the down and dirty on maybe how I got, the Uber thing to turn into a hedge fund and stuff, which is kind of a crazy story that I've only told on David Jaffe's channel. So maybe that way y'all can have that information, because I don't talk about that a lot. But what I wanted to talk about is, Bill, if Palantir goes to 40, is that even really fair to call it a crash? Or is it just because it went to whatever the high was? What was the high, like in the 80s?
81, I don't know.
So 82, according to this thing, is the high. So it goes over here. Let's just say 45, 50, whatever. Let's just say it ends up right here. And then 2 years later, it's at like 125, 130. Couldn't we just really say that it's just a healthy haircut and a pullback that happens in just about every stock up there, because not everything is vertical? I mean, if you look at Amazon, if you look at Tesla, if you look at all of these stocks, Meta, haven't they all done this kind of thing over the last several years? That they go up all crazy, then they come down, they consolidate, they go up all crazy, they come down, they consolidate. Isn't that what the stock market's been for like the last 100 and some years?
It feels like it's not, and you have a valid point, but it feels like a crash in the moment. I think if you look at a chart of Palantir, let's say it did go to 40. I don't think it's going to 40, but let's say it did. If you look at a 10 years out, if you look at a chart of Palantir, it's just going to look like a little blip that kind of went like this. It's gonna fix itself. So, but in the moment, it sure as hell feels like a crash when you go down. If you went down 50%, it's gonna feel like a crash in the moment. Yeah. But in the long grand scheme of things, it's still in a huge uptrend, even if it was at 40. If it goes down to 40, right? So, yeah. It's just perspective of the moment.
How many y'all raise y'all's hands? I don't know how much you follow Palantir, Dallas, but let's raise y'all hands, because I want to talk about my son's portfolio here in a little bit, because I made some moves and I wanted to get a little coaching from you guys if I could. How How many of y'all guys think that Palantir will be a $1 trillion company by the year 2035?
35?
Yeah,
I think so.
30. Dude, I'm talking about a real. I feel a very realistic time frame would be 2035, about 10 years from now.
Yeah, I do.
I think so.
If everything that they're doing plays out, they don't get the significant competition. It definitely will be.
Dude, I 100% believe that to be true. So selling the shares of Palantir was one of the hardest things that I've done in my career. Because I'm like, dude, 10 years from now, this shit ain't going to matter. Deal with these covered calls. Pay $250,000 and just free up the covered calls. And that could be the loss that you booked, right? Because that counts too. So I thought about all of those things, but Palantir didn't make the cut because of the premiums. Because I defined my hamburger stand when I was doing the wheeling seminar a few Saturdays ago, like 7 or 8 weeks ago now. And I was like, if they can't give me an X amount in premiums, I'm just not going to do it. I'll approach it a different way. And I made that decision and I stuck by it. And I feel like I've regretted it every day since, you know what I mean? Because now it's like I try to like replace it with something else because sometimes the portfolio is uneven because I want it to have a certain number of stocks. And then I'm always like, go back to Palantir. But then I get excited because it's getting to levels that are attractive. You're starting to get a little attractive to me from a valuation perspective. But
I started biting again. I bought 500 shares today.
Yeah. I've already got it in my journal, dude. 5,000 shares at $65, and I'm gonna work my way up to 50,000 shares this time, and I'll start loading the boat in the 40s because I am 100% convinced that this thing is going to go to $1 trillion. But the one thing that I am going to do differently on Palantir is I'm going to protect those bad boys with some leaps because I know that I can't own those shares without throwing on some covered calls. And also there is a legitimate chance that this thing could consolidate for a year and a half because it's kind of gotten ahead of itself. So leaps isn't really an opportune play either. But the one thing I don't want to do either is buy a bunch of shares and then be caught in this same situation. And dude, how angry am I going to be at myself? You know what I mean? It's like kind of going back with the girl after she cheated on you a couple times. You know, the first time, okay, maybe so. You know, it was early in the game, whatever. But then the second time, and then you do it again. I mean, come on, dude, you're just being a fool.
You still made a lot of money, TJ. You made some mistakes, but you still made a lot of money.
Oh no, dude! Again, I'm kind of the Ferrari, bro. Or the Porsche. Sorry, the Porsche Panamera. Did y'all see that cheesy license plate that we ordered, bro? That thing's a 100% tax write-off now, and the YouTube channel actually is going to start making those payments after I make good on all the goodies that I got coming for you guys. We got hoodies, we got beanies, we got a bunch of cool shit for the Rent Squad coming, plus the autograph book and Wheelers meetups and tickets to seminars and stuff. So I got like a package deal that will feel like we were really in this thing because y'all helped me grow the channel. So I haven't forgotten, dude. I haven't forgotten. Like I'm gonna be like the only thing you have in this life is your word at the end of the day, right? You don't take anything else with you, so it's your word is what people are gonna remember you by. So yeah, my wife did, or I bought it for my wife like I don't know 7 or 8 months ago. But anyway, I have my son's account here that we're trying to build up, you know, at some point. I had 6,000 shares of Sofi at the end of 24 and 3,000 shares of Riot. So I made some moves because I wanted to create cash flow in this thing because the way the portfolio stood, there was covered calls at 15 on both of them. So it could only cap out. It could go to 135,000. That was all that it could possibly do at the end of 2025, mathematically speaking. And there was no action because there was like not a lot of buying power or anything. Using a little bit of margin in this account because I'm going to start featuring this account a lot because I want to show a lot of creative finance and stuff that I've done in this account. That way, it's a lot more relatable to folks, you know, to to where I used to be when I was in the oil field, if that makes sense. So this is kind of like the mind of TJ when I was in in like 2018, 2019, trying to figure things out before I was able to go full time with this thing. So I've done some things in this portfolio. So we got the 6,000 shares of SoFi at 713.
What's
So
total deposits, TJ?
I'm sorry?
What's total deposits?
35. So let me take you out to the genesis of this account real quick. So I started this account before COVID, put in a few $1,000s, and I ran it up. And then I had to legally close it down whenever I founded the hedge fund. So I just put it on like on a dormant stage with Robinhood. It's my own personal account. So then I just left it there. And then I had to talk with my son. My son's like, hey, I want to do what you do. So like help me, like with seed capital to get there, because he saw he saw that with 250 grand you make six figures. So my son, it turns out my son watches all of these videos and all of these lives. So there's not a lot of cussing anymore because that's just not a good example. I didn't know that my son watched my channel that much. So it's like, God dang, dude. Like I'm like thinking about erasing the whole channel again, like me, Kevin. You know what I mean? So, but I mean, what's done is done. The horse has left the barn. It is what it is. He's 24 years old. He knows that dad that loves the F-bomb. But anyway, clean that up. So, anywho, I want to show people how to grow an account with limited finances. So this is what I did, because this is book number 2 that I'm already working on for material. So I started this with like $2,000 in deposits. It was like $1,000 every 2 weeks, and I got to like 10,000 or 15,000, something like that. And then American Express sent me an email saying, "Hey, on your signature, sign this DocuSign, and we'll give you $20,000. We don't even have to check your credit. We know who you are. Been a customer since 2004 or something like that." So I was like, I'm going to take that 20 grand because I feel like this is something stupid that somebody in this situation might do, meaning TJ in the oil field in 2018, 2019, like scratching and crawling your way to the top, right? Like this is where my mind was back then. So I tried to like go back there. You know, they say don't forget where you came from because you might be on your way back, that kind of thing. So I took that $20,000 and I put it in there, and then I just used my life money, if you will, and I serviced that loan. So I did not service the loan with this account. So I'm not going to tell a story that didn't happen. So I'm going to tell a story. It's got to be a true story. So that's how this account got funded, and I haven't put any more money in it. And now I'm like, and I'm also going to do something stupid because I feel like it's stupid to use margin, and I feel a lot of people in the chat have probably used margin. If you're willing to own up to it, just type in margin that you've used margin in the past.
I'm using a little margin right now.
Garcia, I know that you've used a little bit of margin. I thought about calling you, and I'm like, bro, what the hell are you doing? You know what I mean? But sometimes we see opportunities and we get blinded by those opportunities, so we take some risk. So I am taking some calculated risk on this account. I'm not talking about just margin on cash secured put. I'm talking about margin to either buy leaps or to own shares on margin. And then I'm financing that margin by selling cash secured puts and using that premium. And with the shares that I own on margin, selling covered calls and using that premium to more than satisfy the margin. And I paid that margin down.
Yeah.
Y'all follow me?
Mm-hmm.
So this is where I landed with the account. So on SoFi, we've got 6,000 shares at 713. And dude, I was like doing open door and Neo, and you remember the whole deal, right, Bill? You were there. And I was trying all kinds of stuff, and I'm like, dude, I'm just gonna rock with SoFi. And I was like, I'm just gonna do this one account with SoFi, but then Riot was too tasty because of the premiums I was paying. So I added it to the mix later on. But for the most part, this account has been built on one horse, and that's Sofi. So how we landed is 6,000 shares at 713. So up pretty decent on the shares. There's obviously been a pullback. And the shares are all for sale at $15 because I needed to use that money. One, I got caught with my hand in the cookie jar, but also I needed to use that money to satisfy margin because I had bought 3,000 shares of Riot, a lot of it on margin. So that is where that money went. So it was easy for me to justify doing that. And I was like, and if SoFi doesn't move the way everybody's saying that it moves, well, I don't have just all this, dead money sitting there. I got this money that I was able to work so and so forth because I know Riot's going to give me some money, at least with the premiums. And then here recently, at the start of this year, I also bought 15 leaps. So I freed up some of those shares so that now they're able to run, so to speak. So I recently bought these. You guys can see on 1-2. So that's what's going on with this particular account. And then I also had 3,000 shares at the end of the year of Riot, and I sold those. So I type in Riot into the ticker here and did a little deal. I had 3,000 shares of Riot. But I was like, hey, that's not a capital efficient strategy. So I sold those 3,000 shares at 10.54. I bought to close, and I bought the long calls for 11,400. So you guys can see that 11,000 is a lot less than the 31,000. And the margin maintenance on Riot is not that good. So Robinhood doesn't really even loan me that much money on Riot. So it doesn't make sense to own those shares, and they don't pay a dividend. So, and I think Riot's going up and to the right. So I was like, well, I'll just buy calls that were a little bit out of the money at the time. So I bought these on January the 2nd, paid 11,400. And then I immediately started selling cash secure puts on margin. I brought in $440. And then I just, I let it run up a little bit. It ran up quite a bit. I was up like 4,000 on the leaps. And then 4 days later, I sold cover calls against those leaps at 16, and I collected 480 for those. And then I bought to close some open cash secured puts that I had at $11 for $50. And if we can roll the tape here, you guys will see that I had collected $700 on those cash secured puts. So I booked another win of $650, and I freed up a lot of collateral. So now the portfolio looks kind of healthy. I was using at one point like $16,000 or $17,000 of margin, maybe more, and now we're down to $8,500 in margin, and there's 12,000 of open cash secured put collateral. I'm using 8,500. They're willing to lend us quite a bit, and that's where we stand. And I'm just using these two horses, and I'm trying to get them to $250,000 and hand them the keys. If he can prove to me that he's not going to go crash and burn, but I would like legitimately liquidate everything, and then he would build the portfolio from scratch at that point, unless he wants to like stay long SoFi and so on and so forth. But I'm assuming that the performance bonuses and all that stuff, the units from SoFi, that this would be June of 2026 or later for sure. So all that's gone. So all that's in the bank. Riot will be in a crypto winner, so that probably wouldn't be in there either. And then Jeremiah would have his seed capital to start his business. That's kind of the idea for him. So we've done a lot of stuff here that I feel a lot of you guys have done. So I feel like now I have something that's going to be a lot more relatable for folks, if you will, versus just seeing a big old ass balance and, I just can't relate to that. And, and so many people DMing me and, you're a trust fund baby and all this other crazy shit that y'all don't know that I deal with. You know what I mean? Yeah. So anyway, what do y'all think?
And one thing that, go ahead.
No, whoever wants to chime in. I'm willing for any types of criticism, good or bad. It's all good to me.
When you started the, 25 to 100 challenge, was that it? Yeah, because you started that account with 25, I think, right?
This account?
Yeah.
No, let's go to the Genesis because I can show this one because this is my personal, so I can't do it on the other one because it shows LLCs and it shows account numbers and stuff, so I can't do all that stuff on the other one. So
that was the original plan. He was going to put 25,000 in. I think
Yeah.
he ended up putting 35.
Yeah.
So all I'm saying is that those were like some of your best viewed videos at the time. Was the small account. So
yeah. So you guys will see. You guys will see it here. We started it in June. You see there in January of 2024. I put in 1,000. Are y'all seeing that or no?
Mm-hmm.
So here's 1,000, and here's another 1,000. That's 2. Y'all can help me add. That's 3.
Mm-hmm.
That's 4, 5, 6, 7,
Mm-hmm.
and then here's the American Express money.
Yeah,
I didn't put all of it in.
Yeah, it's 25 grand right there.
Right, and then deposit to individual from Vantage. So I did put the 20, but I put it from a different checking. I got it. So yes, so that's 27, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then that becomes 30.
29.
Or what is that? 29?
29. Now it's 30.
30. Now that's 35.
35.
Right? That's what I said, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's how it happened. And then if I go here, I can show a lot more on this account than I can on the big account. So I feel like I could take the transparency to a whole new level, if that makes sense. And I've already gotten clearance. I'm not going to get fined from anybody. So I feel like this is just this is the portfolio that I want to feature more, because I can do things over here that I'm not able to do over there, if that makes sense. Give me a thumbs up if y'all like this level of transparency, to where I can like really take y'all behind the curtain and shit, because you ain't gonna do anything with even if you have my social, you can't do shit with it, dude. I got so many umbrellas covering me, bro. It's unbelievable. We're good. You know what I'm saying?
And I think too, like what people, because there's this app that I've also been going on called After Hour, where kind of people share their portfolio and stuff. But I have noticed a lot of new investors are also sharing their portfolio, and something I have noticed that I made that mistake as well is they want a piece of every single company. Like their portfolio looks like a goddamn ETF, like one share of every company, and they kind of. And half of it is just kind of stocks that they just found yesterday. Like 20 of them are quantum stocks. Some are ETFs, some are here. And they think that because one of them might go to the moon, they might actually catch that ride. But something that worked for me, and I'm seeing it work for others. And what you're doing in this account is you're concentrating on a high conviction, very high probability of it being a success. And it's not, it's profitable, it's growing margins, it has things going for it, not just hopes and dreams of like, oh, this is the future. So I think people can learn lessons about concentrating more if they're in that stage of their life where they want to build wealth. You kind of have to concentrate either on an ETF at least, or stack something, like accumulate shares in something.
Yeah, so I think so what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to do it now because it would take too long, but I'm going to do a video where I go through how it all happened. You know what I mean? Like go to the start of where I'll find that $1,000 deposit, because it was like somewhere over here. I feel like in June of 20, or I think it might have been in 23. I don't remember the year anymore. That's what happens when the years change, right? Like it screws you up a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So, and then I'll go through it, dude, and you'll see that I tried the ETF thing, like what you're talking about, because you're going to see a lot of these stupid tickers, and I tried. You see Open Door, dude. Bill was a part of this thing. He remembers. I even had my own spreadsheet, and then Bill helped me create the tracker, and it was just a freaking shit show, bro. And then there's not even a lot of money to track. And I'm like, dude, you know what? I ain't tracking shit anymore. I'm just, at the end of the day, what matters is when it has 250 grand. Let's be realistic.
I could just imagine you kind of going from like a $10 million account, and then you turn around and you're like, okay, so a $37 Open Door contract.
Bro, no, but what happened?
TJ, I got getting a work call. Can't be good if it's this late, so I got to run.
All right, man. I appreciate you, Bill.
See you later, guys.
Hey, Bill.
Bye.
Good seeing
I
you.
gotta go at 11.
Yeah, my wife's gonna peek in here in a little bit. I'm just trying to find that original. I think it was in June of 2023. So anyway, dude, yes, dude, I was trying, dude. It was Sofi, it was Neo, it was Open Door.
Yeah.
It was just whatever the heck I thought was gonna do that real quick run up because I was trying to grow this thing as fast as possible because I hadn't been in this mindset in a long time. And that's the story that I want to tell. Like, that's the story that I want to tell here for the next month or two is wheeling this account or growing this account, whatever you want to call it, like building my son's account, because this will ultimately be my son's account. This was it was like I had to do a paradigm shift. Like, dude, this is like where I lost money on ideonomics, dude. Like, I was like in this. I mean, I was doing all kinds of stupid shit.
A 1 to 125 split. Holy shit.
So I had to like clean up the account because I didn't even know that those shares were still in here. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
like I was like, when I had thought about the idea, I was like, okay, cool. I need to I didn't realize that there was stuff in here, and then here we go. So it was new year, new me. So it started January of 2024. And here we go. And the very first one was Sofi, and it was a cash secured put at 850 for $52. And then I started with Open Door. One contract, bro. You know how hard it is to get excited to sell one freaking contract on Open Door for $13, yo? Like, seriously. Like, dude, I even forgot that the damn account was there. You know what I mean? Like, it was just, dude, this was tough for me. So I was like, how am I going to make this exciting? Well, let me put another grand in there because I'm like, what else can you do? I already got 850 tied up, and I used that premium, and I was barely able to squeeze out another 300. You know what I'm saying? You can't do shit. So then I'm like, well, let me put another grand in there, and then I'm like, I'm going to buy 100 shares of Neo at 732. And dude, this thing went again. I remember this thing went against me. So I sold the cover calls. It was a buy right. And then I'm selling more puts on Open Door, put another 1,000. So now I'm at 3,000. And then I buy the 100 shares of Sofi at 739. Sell calls, got a whopping $10. Woohoo. You know, we're going to get to 250 real quick. And I'm like, dude, what a freaking grind. Finally, the other grand. And there's a story that I'm trying to tell you guys right now. And you're going to see here that I'm just scratching and clawing, scratching and clawing, scratching and clawing. And then boom, a deposit, scratching and clawing, scratching and clawing, scratching and clawing, trying to figure it out, anything. And then, oh shit, I get assigned some Open Door. And the only thing that's really growing the account is the deposit.
Yeah.
So whenever you're starting an account, you have to have a funding strategy in place.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that your funding strategy probably needs to stay there until you get probably to like 100 grand.
Yep.
Maybe more. I mean, it just depends on where you're at, like where you're at in life and where you want to be, where you're trying to go with this thing. But then I was like, I want to do something more relatable. What if something is what if times are really, really hard for people and they're like, I can't throw money at this thing, but I'm going to throw talent. I'm going to throw time at this thing. I'm going to figure it out. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to just cap this thing. I'm going to put a hard cap at 35 grand. Because I feel like, dude, if you are not willing to throw $35,000 in blood, sweat, and tears, even if it takes you 5-10 years, then you're not serious about your dream. I can't help you. Yeah. But I feel like a lot of people can scratch and claw their way to 35 grand. And then you just got to find the stocks and you got to, formulate a strategy and stick to your guns and hope that the stars align. But it's tough because we're in the money game. So it kind of takes money.
And honestly, kind of like as they should, because if they kind of get lucky off of like a very low cap company, they put in $100 and somehow it goes to $1 million and they become like overnight, they have 100 grand. They're more likely than not going to squander that money because it didn't really cost them anything.
Yeah.
So they might not know what to do with that. Whereas if they made these deposits and they worked for it, they might look a second time at a company before they put hard-earned money into it. Not money that they kind of came upon them.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you guys this question because both of y'all have, 400 or 600,000. Y'all have $1 million between y'all. So y'all are millionaires. Or y'all are willing to, get married. That's got to be the joke of the night, guys. Give me a thumbs up. We all try to be funny sometimes. That one actually came out funny. So y'all could boom, paper millionaires immediately, dude. All you got to do is be willing to be like Chuck and Larry, right? Remember that movie where they have to get married or whatever? It's a funny movie with the dude from King of Queens.
Mm-hmm.
I now pronounce you, Chuck and Larry, I think was the name of the movie. Dallas. How would your mindset have to change? Because I know you have to go, so I want to start with you first, and then I'll on to you, Garcia. And I got to go too. How would your mindset change if you only had 35,000 to work with, but you couldn't put it all at once? You had to start in January, and y'all see how long it took. It was probably like 2 or 3 months of funding to get to 35,000, and then the objective is to get to 250,000. And mind you, I'm a year into this thing, right? Y'all have seen it. I mean, this is the transparency you're going to get on this channel. And the reason I'm telling y'all that, actually both of y'all are fully transparent as well. Because, dude, it was, the moves I make in that account are totally different than the way that I think, the way that I talk, the way that I walk, the way that I feel. I feel like a stone cold killer in the other account, and over here I feel like a minnow. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I gotta be real careful because I can't afford a misstep. Because I recently tried to do MSTX in that account, made a little bit of money. I'm gonna show that trade in a little bit. But dude, that was the first time in probably 3 years that I was scared money at the poker table in the stock market. And that's not a good place to be. So if you're scared money at the poker table, this is your teaching segment. If you're scared money at the poker table in the stock market, you're playing too big for your account size. Because the one thing that I'm not willing to do with that account is bail it out with money. So if I blow up the account, it happens. So how would it affect you if you had to do something like that? Because this has been one of the most challenging things. Like, this has been a very challenging year for me. Luckily, Riot and Sofi cooperate.
I'm actually going to give a hot take that's probably going to hurt some feelings in the chat, but it's my opinion. If you're starting off with 25, 35,000, I would not be wheeling. If I was advising my son or my daughter, if I had kids, I would not be telling them to wheel, because you're starting that account with all the knowledge already.
That's the facts. I'm starting from experience. Yeah, I'm starting from experience.
Most likely, if you are, scraping and clawing to get 25 grand together, now you see a lot of people on YouTube doing quite well. You're able to make cash flow from selling options. You can make money when stocks go down, when they go sideways, when they go up. It sounds amazing, but you're going to be handicapped right off the bat with that account size because you can only work with certain stocks. And then it's like, well, do I go with spreads? No. So you're going to have to go with smaller companies. Now, you're brand new to the stock market probably. So what's to say you're going to pick just the best small cap companies, probably really low. And so you're selling puts. All of a sudden, one goes way against you. You probably get it right a couple times because you did 20 deltas and things like that. So you build a little bit of confidence. Now this time you do 10 contracts instead of 2 contracts. And that's the time that stock tanks, goes against you. Now you have 50% of your buying power locked up. Then guess what? Apple goes on sale. Microsoft goes on sale. Tesla goes on sale. And guess what you can't do? Buy the dip, which is going to be the best way to grow your account. Would have been buying Meta at $80 buying Tesla at $100, buying Amazon at $90, and just riding it right back to where it is now. So I wouldn't be wheeling at all if I had that type of account. And that's a hot take, but that's my genuine opinion. If I were telling my best friend, that's really the way I feel. I would just be buying the dip on the best companies in the world, and my true focus would be on how do I increase my income from my job? How do I get to a 6-figure job? You know, because like what I do is not a glorious job, but it pays a lot of money.
So but you get to carry a gun, Dallas. You get to carry a gun, bro.
I don't care. I mean, you don't want to carrying a rifle for 12 hours. It's not fun. But when you can make 120, 130, 150K in your 20s, you're setting, and you can keep your lifestyle creep really low and live below your means. You get to funnel 5,000, 7,000 a month into that account. Then you can really grow your account. And once you get to that 6 figures, the compounding starts to take care of yourself. Then you could maybe, wheel in like a paper trading account along the way.
Yeah.
But I would just be buying the dip on the best companies in the world, figuring out how I can get a job that provides like overtime opportunities, things like that, to where I could just funnel that income into my account. That's my take.
So my take before Garcia goes is I wouldn't even do that. I would take your money and I would invest into an ETF. I wouldn't even go and until you have a minimum of 25,000 and you've learned along the way, landed on your strategy and stuff. Like if you're not at least opening your account with quite a bit of knowledge and at least 25,000, because then now the whole pattern day trader and all that stuff is going against you. So really 35, because you want to have a little bit of a cushion because you might slide under it and all that stuff. So that's kind of why I feel like I stopped at 35,000. And I would just dollar cost average into the market and just no brainer investing. But I wouldn't even do it on individual equities. I would just bet on the economy.
Yeah.
So this is if you're starting, like this is for someone who's basically new. Like, so this is not for us if we were starting over.
Right. No, but what I'm saying is if you fall on hard times,
yeah,
I wanted to create something that if you're able to start from experience and you can get a hold creatively of 35 grand, it can be done. But boy, dude, let me tell you, that little account has cost me some restless nights because I have like tried to get creative with that damn thing, trying to figure out, okay, how can I get the most alpha? Because I don't have a lot of capital to work with and I can't afford, to be that wrong. I'm just saying, dude, it's a lot. It's a lot easier. And I hate using that terminology because it's not that accurate. Because, dude, managing the big account is not that easy either. But I'm saying it's like I can afford to be wrong, though, a few times. So you can use your capital to bail you out of some stuff. You know what I mean? You can afford to be patient. Mm-hmm. Whereas over here, yeah, you can afford to be patient. But at the same time, it's like, are you going to be okay bag holding Sofi if things go south for the next 7 years and you can't make any moves because there's just no moves to make? And then now on top of that, I'm in a pinch because I'm also using margin. So now there's a debt that has to get paid, right? Because I'm using that credit card.
Yep.
And granted, it's not much right now. The last payment was like $40, $45, but it's still something. So it's like I have to manufacture some wins in order to satisfy that premium. If the leaps on Riot work out, I could potentially just close those out or a portion of those out and satisfy all of that debt, and then just get more aggressive with my cash secured puts and then start building up my cash balance. And then now the account starts looking healthier because then now I start looking at like, well, let me build my cash balance to 5,000. Let me build the cash balance to 10,000. And now I'm actually in a position to buy the dip on Sofi if something like that happens, or if there's a dip on Riot or another company that I'm interested in as the portfolio grows, right? So like right now, I'm just stuck on Riot and Sofi because I can't really afford to be stuck in anything else right now. There's no money there anyway. Why am I going to get excited about something else? Because I got to have the money available if Sofi tanks. And that's why it's so hard if you're going to go with an individual equity, because if shit goes against you, you got to be willing to go all in, kind of like Garcia did. And that's why it's not recommended at all. So I'm showing y'all everything that I could do. I could do it. And I'm showing y'all that I could do it. I don't recommend it. It's just a very surefire way to potentially blow up your damn account. You know, but I'm showing it all. You know, I'm showing it all. It's almost like I'm going to write the book of like what not to do. I was very successful at it because I feel like I will get this damn thing to 250. But I've also been in this game since 1998. And enamored with this game since I was like 7 or 8 years old. Really enamored since I was 12. So, you know, I say it all the time. The balance isn't an accident. So, Garcia, take us home.
Yeah, man. So staying on that theme, I guess, if it was basically like a friend, someone who's telling me, hey, I'm going to start from zero. What am I going to do? I would tell just, if you're going to be investing in the best tech stocks, you know, Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, but you don't want to be choosing, just accumulate as many shares of QQQ as you can.
Yeah.
And not even accumulate shares, just think about it as you're just going to be doing boring investing. You're going to be depositing the same amount every single week. But I mean, it's just, I mean, it's hard to say just the same thing as Dallas did. It's just like, you're really going to be putting in as much money as you possibly can. Like that's going to be the quickest way. That's the way I grew my account, you know, to start off like at 60, 70, 80,000. It was basically just saving money, paying off debt. And actually that's step 0, right? Like that's step -1 is getting your financial shit together first.
Yeah.
Pay off your debts, like all of the debts, pay them off as soon as, and then once you're out of debt, then you have all this money that you didn't realize you actually had this free money to be able to invest. And now you can put in as much money as you can and continue adding. That would be the biggest thing. And just, I mean, once you get to the 20, 30,000, and while you're accumulating, then you would start researching the stocks on your own time. And you're not under that time pressure that you're holding shares that might be going against you. You're just accumulating QQQ on the side, and you're reading up on Nvidia, you're reading up on Tesla, Microsoft, your favorite companies. You learn the basics on investing. And while your portfolio count is growing, it might be because of the deposits mostly, but it's going to be growing. And it's I think that would be it. If it was me starting from scratch, like if knowing what I know today, if I woke up tomorrow, my account was 0 and I had to start over, I would just start accumulating Rocket Lab again. Because right now, I think from where Palantir is right now and where Rocket Lab is, I think over the next year, I think Rocket Lab is going to outperform Palantir. So I would start accumulating shares of Rocket Lab, selling conservative covered calls, and just start slowly building the portfolio that way. And just do that. But that's because knowing what I know now and my conviction and what I have. But if I didn't have that, I wouldn't know what company to choose. I would be picking, you know, the third, fourth company in space. You know, I wouldn't even know who would be the top performing companies. So it's a different strategy depending where you're at, knowledge wise and finance wise. So people really do have to admit where they are. Like, where are you right now, really? And what do you want to do?
This is a good question right here. And y'all know why that is, right? Or maybe y'all don't understand how hedge funds get paid.
I did read about that this weekend, actually, where they're saying, well, the point isn't to outperform, it's to keep the wealth of their clients. You know, their clients, they don't care to make
but there's a mathematical reason why it's very difficult for them to outperform, and that's why I don't get paid like that. It's because of their compensation. It's 220.
Mm-hmm.
So the investor's already behind the 8 ball from day one because you're paying too much damn money for them to manage your money because you're lazy.
Yeah.
So you deserve to underperform because you're lazy.
Yeah, that's the premium that you're paying.
You're
to
paying
not-
them to
not
go
look at-
golf and to go live in the yacht and have a real good life. Congratulations for being stupid.
Yeah.
Because somebody has to pay their salary. Who's paying their salary? You, Mr. Customer.
Mhm.
I mean, you are paying their salary. Go Google how hedge funds get paid. It's the 220. Two is like the management, and then the 20. Like I'm gonna Google it for you, so I don't want to screw it up here.
I gotta go, guys.
Because I have a waterfall strategy.
Peace out, Dallas. Good seeing you, man.
Yeah. Take care, brother. Appreciate you.
All right, see you.
Yeah,
So
so
it's like
two
the
refers to
220 rule?
two refers to the standard management fee,
Like
of the
2%?
assets manually, while the 20 means the incentive fee of 20% of the profits above a certain threshold. It is.
Oh, so they'll set like a 15% a year, and anything they make above 15%, they're charging you 20% on that.
Yeah, so it depends, dude. Every hedge fund is different, dude. Like I set up something very, very unique, right? The reason is because in Texas, everything's very, very flexible, right? So you have general partners and you have your limited partners. So I'm the general, and then your investors are the limited. You enter into an agreement. So my agreement is I get paid 10% of the profits until I double your money. And then when I double your money, I get a pay raise. And when I double your money again, we're 50-50 partners. Do you want to dance with me?
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not going to make you rich and I'm doing okay. And it was real hard for me to get investors. And now I got to line out the door. And I'm like, you know what? I ain't taking anybody.
Yeah.
I ain't taking anybody because it's a lot of work. And whenever the market's down, it's real hard to babysit you guys because I feel like I'm a psychologist.
Yeah, they're constantly calling you to
dude,
sell everything.
No, not doing it. Yeah. I'm not doing it. I ain't trying to be your wheel Dr. Phil, bro. I ain't doing it. And then, you know what's worse is when the market goes up. It's even worse than when the market goes down because they want why did it go up, dude? Do you really care? Do you really care? Because here's the thing, I don't know, and neither do you, and neither does anybody on CNBC or YouTube.
Yep.
We're just glad that it did.
Yep.
And that's it. And when it goes down, are we positioned okay?
Mm-hmm.
You know, am I doing a good job of managing the bankroll? Because that's the job. Make no mistake about it. The job is to manage the bankroll. We're in the money business. Money is the game. And what's the game? To accumulate more.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, I don't give a shit. When Sofi went about that, I don't give a shit. How am I managing my cash secure puts or covered calls? Whatever. How are the leaps looking? That's it. I only care about my down in distance. You know what I mean?
Like today, I just hit 6,000 shares on Rocket Lab. So I'm kind of on my way. Like I had a goal for
real quick. Give me because I own 20,000 of those buggers under $4, and I've never sold a cover call against them. I don't know much about the company. I know there's something called Neutron that everybody's excited about. Yep. I wasn't excited about the company. I did the 20 grand because I keep watching Matty Capital and Vince's Bullish talk about it.
Yep.
Vince's Bullish is one of my members. We do FaceTimes once a month.
Mm-hmm.
But I had looked at their financials one time on Alpha Spread.
Yep.
And unless something's changed, it seemed like they were going to have to like dilute more and raise more capital because there was mathematical certainty that they're going to run out of money because of their burn rate.
Have
they short that up already? Like, why are y'all buying this shit at like $25? Because don't they have to dilute? Like, isn't there for sure going to be a dip at some point? Like,
that's the thing is that I believe it was last earnings where they were asked that question and they said, I don't know if it was during the earnings or another time, but they said they have enough capital. They have enough capital to finish the R&D, the project that they have on the new rocket. So they don't have a need to raise capital. Back when it was at 14 or 15 or 16, it ran up to 28, 29, even 30. And any other company would have immediately diluted. They would have said, oh shit, like we need the cash. Even investors in in some of those group chats. They were saying, I'm an investor, and they said they wouldn't dilute, but I wouldn't mind if they raised a couple million off of us at these valuation levels. Like even some investors were kind of giving them the green light of like, hey, I wouldn't mind getting diluted here a bit if
Sure.
But to me, what that tells me is that they haven't done that. So what that's telling me is that they're very secure in their financials. Like they're managing the capital very, very well, and they're showing respect to their investors. They're showing respect that, hey, we're not going to dilute the crap out of you just because we can. We're only going to do it if it's necessary. And because we're ahead of schedule, we're under budget, we don't have to. So to me, that shows like very, very good, like they're very good shepherds of the money that they have. And once that rocket launches sometime in the middle of this year, so like for me, I'm selling covered calls now, but I'm selling like 0.10 deltas. Like they're very conservative.
Wow.
The penny, it's a couple $100 that I'm getting every month or every week. I'm selling weeklies too. So I'm selling, $32 covered calls expiring next week. So that was like $850 that I'm getting now every week, and I'm buying more shares with that premium. But
the IV is really high right now. I'm looking at the options chain over here, and the IV is now like 99% on these 22s, I think, or 23s for the end of the month.
Oh, dude, I'm making bank on those puts. Like I've been selling 0.4 deltas on the puts. I've been way more aggressive on the puts.
Yeah, because you're comfortable with the shares.
Yeah, and I've been employing that strategy that kind of Bill White was kind of teaching me, is kind of starting off with like a 25% position size. If it goes heavily against you, you double down, and you kind of double down and you go down and strike as much as you can.
Yeah.
And then if it goes against you again and you still have conviction, you can even lower your strike even more. So I've been strangling Rocket Lab now. Like I stopped selling puts on Palantir. Like you need to tie up way too much money.
Yeah, and then you probably get the same premiums over here for a fraction of the cost.
And plus, with some of Rocket Lab's contracts now, you can buy them in 1 cent increments. You're not stuck to 5 cent increments.
I don't think they're, real quickly, I don't really think they're competitors from the little that I understand.
Yes, like they're competitors when it comes to the space launch. Okay. So when it comes to satellites, SpaceX is wildly ahead because they have Starlink and all that. And SpaceX is quite ahead when it comes to space launch because they have now their their Starship, right? It's going to be shooting up, tons and tons of weight up in space. But right now, SpaceX, their most successful vehicle right now is the Falcon 9. So that one is basically sending up the majority of their satellites. And Rocket Lab's Neutron is going to directly compete with SpaceX's current rocket. So they're going to be taking a slice of that, of that launch business. But more importantly than that, is that this rocket is going to now enable Rocket Lab to send up their own satellites, their own systems, their own other, companies are going to be able to send their stuff as well. So, for me, I don't expect them to be equal to SpaceX anytime soon, or even half of SpaceX. I'm just saying, as SpaceX continues to grow and people realize, space is actually going to be a big TAM, and SpaceX goes public, maybe one day. If it does go public, I believe a lot of other space companies are also going to kind of rise with that IPO hype. But for me, and the CEO too. The CEO, he reminds me of Elon Musk, where they're the engineer, they're the main engineer, so you can't bullshit them. Like the engineers working on the rocket on Rocket Lab, if there's a delay, they can't tell Peter Beck, oh yeah, we're having problems with the carburetor and blah blah blah. And then, unlike Jeff Bezos has his own rocket company. They haven't been able to get anything into orbit in years because, in my opinion, the guy at the top doesn't know what the engineers are doing. Like truly, they're kind of giving him reports on what's going on, but I don't think Jeff Bezos is in the engine working with the engineers alongside them, working out the kinks, working out the problems, the same way Peter Beck is. Peter Beck, this guy is a, engineering genius. So this guy is in there, in the machine, in the rocket, making sure it's going to be another successful, successful launch. So for me, it's I think they have a lot of good things coming for them this year. They're actually I believe they're going to be profitable for the first time. I'm not sure which quarter, if it's going to be the second or third quarter of this year, but I think kind of like Palantir, the moment Palantir went profitable, that's kind of when the tides turned with Palantir as well, where now Palantir got a lot of tailwinds behind it. I think Rocket Lab is going to have tailwinds with profitability, and the neutron rocket. So for me, those are the biggest reasons that I have a pretty high conviction in them.
Right on. Did you watch Star Wars as a kid?
No, not Star Wars, but Interstellar is probably one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, I saw it. It's like 10 years old or 15 years old though, right? I saw it a while back. Like,
Matthew McConaughey. Yeah,
and another famous actor. Somebody else. Awesome. Matt Damon, maybe?
Matt Damon is in it. No. I think Sandra Bullock. No, not Sandra Bullock. I forgot her name.
She might be in it. Or that was Galaxy or something.
Yeah. That was another one. But, I mean, it's realizing that there is going to be a lot of things going up in orbit. And also, too, they have contracts with the military where now they need to, the military, the Space Force, needs to be able to control what their enemies are doing. Like if North Korea launches a nuke, if North Korea launches a nuke or Russia launches a nuke, they can't just shoot their own missile from land and try to intercept it like the way it was in the past. Their plan now is to be able to intercept it from orbit, almost to be able to intercept it at supersonic speeds and protect the U.S. in that way. So I think there's a lot of other, the TAM is just going to be growing and growing for space. And this company has shown that they've solidified their number 2 place behind SpaceX. So I think,
and the fact that we can't, the average Joe can't invest in SpaceX unless you like work there or you're part of like a venture capital firm or something.
Yeah. So naturally they're kind of going to the next best thing.
Yeah.
And if, SpaceX goes public, I don't think it's going to take away from Rocket Lab. I think it's going to elevate their multiples.
Yeah.
If,
well, I think the TAM is huge.
Yeah. So that's,
I don't know why I'm not that interested in the space, pun intended. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting on a pretty healthy gain on it.
Yeah.
And it's taking everything I got not to sell those damn shares. like I'm not even kidding. I'm not even
just sell weekly deep out of the money covered calls on them and collect
But the thing is, it's in a buy and hold account. I don't even do anything with that one. I have the Bros on there that was doing pretty well.
Yeah.
I've got.
Dude, HIMS is another one that I would, if I were to start opening my account to more and more companies, me and my wife were talking about signing up for HIMS because we're seeing that they offer like a lot of things. Like, they're offering like
y'all are looking for a little romance or what?
No.
Hold on. Let me do my late night voice. Late night with TJ, the real deal.
Hey, long and strong, TJ. Long and strong.
Long and strong. Don't get it wrong. Okay, go ahead.
No, man.
This shit took a turn. We lost all our viewers.
No, man. But me and my wife were talking about it, though, how a lot of Americans, too, they don't have healthcare. Like, a lot of Americans don't, because healthcare is super expensive. So what are they doing? They're signing up for these companies to be able to get the things that they need for, like, let's say, like right now they're going to offer menstrual health. They're offering Ozempic or the Mounjaro, whatever it is.
Right.
They're offering weight loss pills, skin product. Like it's not just, the Viagra. They've really opened up their catalog to be able to be an all-in-one, one-stop shop when it comes to health.
Agreed.
And their subscriber growth is freaking huge. So I think their next earnings, they're going to show how much more they're growing.
And their premiums are pretty juicy. So it's definitely one that I've considered, but I've been swing trading end phase, and
Yeah.
I'm swing trading right now, Clean Spark and Marathon, the miners. So once I'm out of those plays, Hims is definitely one that I'm considering taking a very sizable position on, because I follow Chris, Data Driven Investing,
Yeah. Yeah.
and Tevis.
Mm-hmm.
And Tevis is going to be helping me out with Riot, like weekly or monthly whenever we do it, to like
Yeah.
really dig into Riot, because I didn't really get into it today.
Mm-hmm.
I did a little bit on my son's account, and dude, it seems like Hims really has it going on, like financially. Like all the metrics are really just like amazing. The premiums,
And I don't think they have any debt.
and I made money with it. I've already made money with it, so I've already got a good taste in my mouth with the ticker.
And if I remember, they don't have any debt, if I recall. So they don't have any debt.
I think the balance sheet is very, very clean. Yeah.
So, and then their subscriber growth is off the charts. And, like the market, they're going to reward companies that actually grow more than their peers. And I mean, Hims, if I recall, their growth is going to be huge. So,
yeah. The other thing, I think that they've also already been challenged a little bit, and they've shown some resiliency, and I like that kind of thing.
Yep.
But I do got to run, dude. I got to spend time with the wifey. Appreciate you coming on, helping the channel, dude. Let's see if in the next week or two I can go on your channel and we can go make some noise over there.
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, we'll stay in touch. I'll send you a text.
All right, man. I appreciate you, man. Happy New Year to you. I hope everything works out. Appreciate all of you guys, man. If y'all could please smash the like, the subscribe, and if y'all can go on Garcia and Dallas Matthews' channel as well, man. That would be awesome. TJ the Will Joe signing off with Garcia, Bill White earlier, and Dallas Matthews. As always, may your sky stay blue, stock screen. Peace out. God bless you guys.
Bye, guys.